So, I'm going to make a response video to Anita Sarkeesian's What I Couldn't Say. Now, I'm not going to be mean. I might make a few jokes, maybe even a few, kind of moderately mean jokes, but the gist of this is that I want to address the same sort of thing she's addressing, because I do think that it's a problem. I do think that there is a real problem with people using, stuff they found online about people as a mechanism to harass and threaten and silence them. I really think that that's despicable. I think that it's a problem. It needs to be addressed. I don't know how to address it. I don't think web services can do it because it's just too easy to make new accounts. There's just so many ways to get around any sort of thing you set up to prevent abuse. I mean, even if Anita Sarkeesian, for example, blocks people on Twitter or Facebook or wherever she, blocks them, that doesn't stop them. That's the thing. It does not stop them. They can come back and comment because all they have to do is make a new account. And even with phone verification, there's ways around it. I'm sure. I don't know any myself because I've never needed it, but I'm sure there are ways around it. So, I'm just going to go ahead and let her speak. And we'll see what she has to say. I'll pause the video on occasion and then comment. Hopefully this doesn't get to be too long. I know my videos tend to be like at least 15 minutes. They'd be longer if I could make them longer. Without further ado, here's Mrs. Sarkeesian.
What I couldn't say is fuck you.
You can say that, and you should say that. You should say it a lot. Whenever these people come out and they, start harassing you, they talk nasty about you. Granted, I can't say I'm entirely innocent of that, but then again, I tend to do that to a lot of people. It's not just you, it's not just women, it's people in general. I can be a little bit mean sometimes, but I suppose what I'm really addressing are the people who really are harassing you. It's one thing to make, some sort of drawing of you mocking you. It's another to message you with insults and death threats and other things like that. And so when you get those, when you get that kind of cruel criticism, you should say fuck you to these people. You should. And not doing so, I'll be honest, is a show of weakness. Did your mother ever teach you, Anita, or your father, that when you deal with a bully, the best strategy for dealing with a bully is not to let them get their way? It's to stand up to them. If you were a kid and some bully bigger than you comes and pushes you down, takes your lunch money, if you just tolerate that, if you just let them do it day after day, they're just going to keep doing it. They're going to keep doing it, and they're going to enjoy it. And they're going to start taking more. Instead of just taking your lunch money, they'll take your lunch box. They'll, take your favorite toy. They'll do something to you. And that's kind of what you're dealing with here. And it's partially because you don't stand up for yourself. It's partially because you withdraw the way you do. You don't let people comment on your videos. Now, granted, the comments will be atrocious, some of them. You do that. It makes you look cowardly. It makes you look weak. That's not a criticism of you entirely. It's just a little bit of advice. I suggest you do exactly what you say you can't do. You should say all those things that you feel that you can't say. Say them. And if people don't like it, well, they can go watch something else.
To the thousands of men who turned their misogyny into a game, A game in which gendered slurs, death, and rape threats are weapons used to try and take down the big bad villain, which in this case is me. My life is not a game. I've been harassed and threatened every day for going on 3 years with no end in sight. And all because I dared to question the self-evident, obvious sexism running rampant in the games industry. Nothing...
Well, beg to differ. I don't support the harassment, but I'll tell you, it's not just you pointing out the sexism, which I don't really think is as big of a problem as you claim. It's actually more that a lot of people see you as kind of a scam artist. And I myself am somewhat in that camp. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure about that anymore, but I certainly did think that for quite some time. And it's very simple why, I forget exactly how much you got, but you got over like $100,000, I think it was. Let's look. Well, I don't know. I was going to look it up, but I guess it's unnecessary. And you were supposed to use that money for your Tropes versus Women series. And, you've not produced what you said you were going to produce, and now, from what I've heard, you're actually asking for more money. Well, some people will see that as being, a scammer, an e-beggar, And a lot of people will say that when you talk about the stuff you're talking about right now, that you're just using what they call professional victimhood to justify getting that money so you can get more people to donate to you. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and try to prove those things. I'm not even going to really make the accusations. But I just want to point out that it's not just about pointing out the sexism in video games that people are after you about. There's other things. I don't agree with them doing what they're doing, but you need to understand why it really is. It's not just about your Tropes versus Women series that people disagree with. And it's also not just men. There's plenty of women involved in this.
about my experience as a game. What I couldn't say is I'm angry. When people who know what I go through on a daily basis meet me in person, they often react with some surprise, saying things like, I don't understand how you aren't more angry. Because I'm just being me. I'm usually kind of charming and nice to people. But I respond saying that I am angry. In fact, I'm furious. I'm angry that we live in a society where online harassment is tolerated, accepted, and excused. Where web services and law enforcement are not taking responsibility.
Well, Anita, how are the web services supposed to do it? As I pointed out earlier, blocking them, banning them, all that stuff is useless in solving it. Okay? Now you might say, oh, well, let's just take away anonymity. Well, that's great. Let's take away anonymity. But, then people like me would be silenced. We would be silenced because we can't speak, okay, without fear of being attacked. I have positions, Anita, that if people knew in my real life would get me fired, might get me evicted from my home at some point, would lose me friends and family potentially. People don't play fair. That's the problem here. People just do not play fair. They don't really believe in freedom of speech. They don't really believe in freedom of thought. When you disagree with somebody on the internet, sometimes they're fair and they debate it, but other times they try to look up information about you. They try to find out who your employer is. They try to find out where you go to school. And they try to ruin your life. You've experienced it. And in part because you're so public, because they know your name, because they have some idea where you're at. They know where you've gone to school at least. So you're an easy target. That's why they go after you. But if you were to take away, say, anonymity from the internet and make everything open, well, there's a whole bunch of people that would just be silenced by that, including a lot of women whose experiences need to be shared. So there's no easy solution to this. Now, law enforcement can help, but their powers are limited too, because being anonymous on the internet isn't just about having a pseudonym. It's also about, maybe using things that obfuscate your ISP, It's about being able to avoid detection, or not detection, but being found. There are ways to do it, This video, by the way, is going to be longer than 15 minutes. It's going to have to be split in two, so fair warning on that.
Responsibility for the abuse that women suffer every day online. I'm angry that I'm expected to accept online harassment as the price of being a woman with an...
Well, no, Anita, you're not expected to accept it. Nobody expects you to accept it. I think what you're talking about here is people who say, like I do, that you're just going to have to get used to it. And there's a very good reason. It's not that you deserve it. It's not that it's a price that you have to pay as if it's some way justified. It's not. It's terrible that people do it. But, on the other hand, Anita, it's just a fact about the internet and about the world. There's not much anybody can do about it. Some people have internet connections and are scumbags. Hate to break it to you, but that's just the way things are. The people who send you death threats, well, they just are going to do it. And, just to let you know, it's not just you that gets these death threats. I've gotten death threats before for comments I've posted on Facebook and elsewhere. I've been harassed before, not nearly to the same extent as you, of course, but, that's partially because I keep my real identity hidden, or at least as hidden as I can. You're not expected to accept it, but it's not much you can do. There's not much you can do about it. There's not much anyone can. It's just the way of the world. Sorry.
Opinion. What I couldn't say is anything funny. Most of my friends would just...
Well, that depends what you mean by funny. This is a little bit of a slap, but I think you say things that are funny all the time. You just don't intend them to be funny. But that's beside the point. I just kind of had to throw in that jab there.
Describe me as a little bit snarky and pretty sarcastic, and you can occasionally glimpse this part of my personality in earlier criticism videos, but I almost never make jokes anymore on YouTube. Even though humor can be humanizing, and I like using it, I don't do it because viewers often interpret humor and sarcasm as ignorance, especially if those viewers are male and the ones making the jokes happen to be female.
Well, Anita, there's a bit of a problem there. It's not you that's made this joke, okay? But one of your friends, or at least somebody that's on the same side as you, Rebecca Watson, has made jokes that were deemed ignorant and offensive. And the reason they were deemed ignorant and offensive is because men took them as being demeaning to men. Now, I don't care about that, personally. I'm one of these people that thinks that taking offense at jokes is stupid and makes you weak, and you need thicker skin if you're offended by a mere joke. But the reason we can say this to women like you and Rebecca Watson is because you guys complain about jokes that are offensive to women. Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you can complain about offensive, misogynistic jokes, then we can complain about offensive, misandrist jokes. Now, I know you're probably talking about ignorance of video games, but I just wanted to point that out. I'm going to have to wrap up here, and then, do another